Don't you worry about the big blind bear. Just sit tight and count his hair. Don't you worry about the bear. Cause the bear ain't going blind. Mama, you just hold your line.
Good evening, everyone. The programme is announced as an evening with Jim Simpson. Sadly, for the first 2 or 3 minutes, it's going to be Ron Simpson, but that won't last long, don't worry. We'll be giving you a little bit of paper. Our idea for this evening is to do a chat between the two of us, mainly Jim, for maybe 45 minutes, then take a little break. And if you'd like to come up with fascinating and difficult questions for the second half, we'll put those over then and we'll just see how we go from that. Anyway, you're all here for that book, which is not an autobiography. It's not a history of music. It's a sort of, I suppose, a musical memoir, looking back over 50 plus years in the music industry. And it came about in originally December 2017, when we realised that the following year was going to be quite a few, or 2 very significant anniversaries. Jim was going to have a significant birthday, and so too was Big Bear Music, which became 50 years old in 2018. So everybody was saying, you ought to write a book, you ought to write a book. So in the end we thought, yeah, he ought to write a book. But he needed a sort of assistant, amanuensis or whatever, and that's where I came into the operation. To begin with, we started with Jim's life in general. Thereafter, if you've seen the book, you'll know it's kind of thematic. You know, there's a chapter on other things, He played with the Biscuit Boys, chapters on Marbella Jazz Festival, Ronnie Scott's, and several chapters on an obscure band called Earth, who wisely changed the name to Black Sabbath. Anyway, let's try and kick off with how Jim started in music. My first memories of Jim in music were in the 1940s, when he insisted on playing Pee Wee Hunt's 12th Street Rag all the time and drove us all mad. How would you talk about your origins in music?
Well, I think it really goes back to a bunch of aunties. During the war, my dad was in the 3rd Royal Tanks in the desert, and I was surrounded by women. There was my mother, her mother, in the same house. Next door, for some reason, there were 3 aunties, and next door to that were Auntie Minnie and Auntie Flo. I grew up thinking everybody had Auntie Minnie and Auntie Flo, but probably not. And they knew I liked music, and they kept buying me terrible records like Montana Slim's When the White Azaleas Start Blooming. Then Dad came back on leave, found to his horror that I'd collecting some country music, and took me upstairs and filled my arms with Louis Armstrong and Jack Teagarden and Bing Crosby and real music. I think I was about I don't know, 6 years old then, I suppose, 6 or 7. But I didn't buy my first record until I was 8, which was in fact Pee Wee Hunt's 12th Street Rag. Can I just tell you, years and years and years and years later, we got involved with something called the Great Western Festival. It was the early days of the pop festivals. It was in Lincoln, and it was run by Stanley Baker and David Hemingway, 2 film actors.
Hemming.
They owned this company, and when I came to, they wanted me to book some bands and odds and ends. They called me to their office, and as we walked to David's office, there was a phonogram player with an old-fashioned horn on it, and on it was a Pee Wee Hunt's version of Somebody Else Not Me. And I said, I know what's on the other side of that. Oh, what is it? It's a 12th Street Rag, and it was. The odds against that happening was pretty long. And that was the beginning. At school, under the guidance of the history master, I was allowed to form a jazz club, which consisted of a bunch of boys after school playing records, and supervised by a master who was desperate to get off to the pub. But that was the beginning of it. And that was the era of Kenny Baker's Dozen on the radio every Monday. Let's Settle for Music on the live programme, which was wonderful. I mean, there were 2 radio shows a week we listened to. One was Kenny Baker, the other was Thursdays. It was The Good Show, which also, in a funny way, had a jazz feeling to it. But
well, they had Mexico Grand Round, yeah. And good players in Ray Hunter's quartet.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where you started. Can you remember, by the way, what was the first LP we bought?
Yes, I can. Louis Armstrong, Hot Fives, 1925 on Columbia, 12-inch with Cornish chop suey.
Yeah, that's the one. And it's about this, not about the same, a little bit later, we had the chance to see Louis.
Yeah, he played at the Embassy Sportsdrome on Walford Road, which is in Spark Hill. It's now a little housing estate. I'm so disappointed that streets like Cedar Crescent and things, but it should be Louis Armstrong Avenue and Barrett Dean's, Barrett Dean's Street and things, but it's not. But in those days it was a roller rink, which meant it was round, which meant that we sat in the round. They put the band on stage, which was a revolving stage in the centre of the room, and you'd sort of tot around and see Lewis's back, and they'd come around and see his front again. And it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. The room was full. I've no idea of the capacity. It was probably 1,500 people, 1,250 people. And the opening act was a one-legged tap dancer called Peg Leg Bates, who was absolutely stunning. He span on his good leg and tapped with his missing leg, and vice versa. He did somersaults and all sorts of things, and he was absolutely tremendous. And years and years later, I was talking to Humph about Louis, and I mentioned Peg Leg. He said, "Oh, I did a tour with him." He said, "Did 12 dates on the road with Peg Leg." I said, "Oh, what's he like?" He said, "Well, he was sensational on stage. He made everyone laugh. It was really funny. And he spent the rest of the evening crying, weeping with pain in the dressing room because of the." So it's the side you don't normally see.
And it's a better Peg Leg Bates story. Are you going to tell that?
Yes. In the year 1999, we put together a piece of music, a suite, posh word for what was really just rock and roll, called Swinging Down Broad Street. And I chose about 8 or 10 topics about things that happened in Birmingham's music history. I talked to people like Baron Barnes and Humph and Alan Plater, the playwright. He wrote the stories for us. And one of the stories called something in the Peg Leg.
Pops and
the Peg Leg, it was called. Yeah, Pops being such. I did a bit of research for it. I googled Peg Leg Bates, and eventually I found the town he came from, somewhere in South Carolina. And I phoned up a number of a community centre there. I said, "I'm sorry to be a nuisance, but can you tell me, have you heard of Peg Leg Bates?" Who was it? "Today, in wherever we are, South Carolina, is Peg Leg Bates Day." It's his day. He was a dancer before he lost his leg. It was some sort of agricultural machinery. Chopped it off.
Yeah. When I was checking this out for the book to make sure that, the name of the place, whatever it is, in South Carolina, I found out there's also even a Peg Leg Bates highway there. So he's well remembered. Shall we jump on to Gibraltar?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jim was playing trumpet before he went into the RAF. I don't think to any very high standards, if I say so.
I wasn't that good.
And Gibraltar in the RAF was a big time for you.
Yeah.
Musically and in other ways.
Yeah. I was called up on national service and was told I had no choice of what trade I went into, but I could sign on for an extra year, and the weekly pay went up from £1.14 to £3.14. It sounded too good an offer to refuse, so I went to sign on and got to choose my trade, which was air traffic control. And during the Suez crisis, we were sent to Gibraltar. We all volunteered for the Middle East, thinking Suez. And I got as far away in the Middle East Command from Suez as they could have sent me, probably a good thing. And somebody was told the commanding officer that I played trumpet, or probably owned a trumpet. So he called me up. I thought, "Oh, I'm in trouble here." And he said, "I believe you're a trumpet player." I said, "Yeah, yeah." He said, "Would you like to form the station band?" I said, "Oh, what's that?" He said, "Well, it doesn't actually exist yet, but we've got an orderly room to rehearse in. We've got a room full of instruments, and you can have time off to organise the band." And that started it all off.
And when you came out, you got involved with the Birmingham scene immediately or not?
No, I went back to Gibraltar within 48 hours of being demobbed, because all my friends were there. It was really strange. I was the longest serving serviceman in Gibraltar because I kept extending my stay. I thought Gibraltar was, I still think it was the most wonderful place I've ever been to. I did a radio show every Wednesday. I was playing 4 or 5 nights a week. I sort of knew most people. I went back to see all my chums, but I was an outsider. I was no longer serving the Queen like all they were. I no longer had to be in barracks by a certain time, and I felt totally ostracised. So I stayed about 48 hours and went into Spain. And I came back and sort of settled down. And Birmingham was wonderful in those days. We had 8 or 9 palais de danse. Each of them had a 16-piece big band, probably. It's 7, 8, 9-piece intermission band. We needed 4 musicians to keep these bands staffed that we had in Birmingham, so they came from all over the country. There's a trumpet player called Dougie Roberts, who played for Johnny Dankworth's band, Johnny Dankworth's 7, Lou Stone, Ted Heath, I think, but he had a drinking habit and he got sacked from all of them, and it ended up in Birmingham working for Colin Hugh at that Mecca Ballroom, Ricardo, on Her Street. And I got trumpet lessons with one of the greatest trumpet players in the country at the time. You know, Birmingham was like that then. You go to jam sessions or bars and cafes, you'd meet musicians. And it set a level for us all. We knew what to aspire to. We couldn't reach there, but you had something to aim at. You didn't get smug and comfortable and thinking you're any good. I formed a band called the Kansas City 7. None of us had ever been further west than Western-super-Mare at that time. It turned into Everest Blues Hounds because we wanted to do small group Kansas City stuff like can-based things, and we liked drummers like Gus Johnson. He says meaningfully for someone sitting at the back there smirking at the words Gus Johnson. And we were a kindergarten band. Mike Kelly, one of our drummers, went to Spooky and other people as well.
The only ones with Peter Perry? The only ones with Peter Perry?
That's right. And he worked a lot with Steve Winwood. That's right. He told me that he was with 2 other drummers in New York in a hotel, and they all realised they'd been drummers with Locomotive. The band became Locomotive. That's right. One was Cole Palmer, and the other was John Bonham. So we seemed to produce bands, musicians that went on to do much greater things than we did. Eventually, we had our 3rd or 4th singer, on the road about 9 years. A 3rd or 4th singer was Norman Haynes, who worked on Saturday mornings in a Smethwick record store. And it was very much a Jamaican record store, and records like Rocksteady was then. They weren't available through normal channels until people like Sue and Ireland started re-releasing them. But we'd go down Saturday mornings just to hear what these West Indians were ordering, and we fell in love with Rocksteady. So we sort of changed our style there. Accidentally had a hit record called Rudy's in Love. It was, the idea behind it was quite calculated really. There was a Rudy thing going on in Jamaica. He was a rude boy. He went around killing people and things like that. Retributing and gun shooting, that's the line. And we decided to make him a nice guy, so we made him fall in love. Norman Haynes wrote the song, and Rudy's in Love was the first ever West Indian rhythm hit in this country. No, it wasn't actually. Millie had Lollipop before that. That was 100%. It was the first ska, rocksteady, blue beat. Yeah. And that's when I stopped playing. When we had the hit, I couldn't play in the band and manage, so I retired and concentrated on management.
Let's go off to a slightly different tangent. So I mean, you've got a movement through playing jazz, moving into other more varied fields, and with always an involvement coming up with the blues, and then you founded a club, and that is an interesting story in more ways than one.
Right. When my evenings were free, I went out and listened to other bands. I heard a band called Bakerloo Blues Line. I never know whether they're from Litchfield or Tamworth, one of the two. Guitar players Dave Clemson became pretty well known with Humble Pie, John Hysom's Coliseum, and he's a pretty top blues-rooted rock session player. The other 2 guys in the band, initially, also moved on to better things. One went to Judas Priest, one went to Supertramp. And when John Hinch, the drummer, left, we replaced him with Cozy Powell, who went on to, and when he left, we replaced him with my old drummer, who left my band to join Spencer Davis, and that's Pete York. That's another drummer we haven't got. We feel very lucky with drummers. But I couldn't get work for Bakerloo. The blues boom was dying, mainly because too many people were jumping on it, people who didn't play very well. To a simplistic person, blues sounds very basic and easy to do, but you've got to have something special to do it properly. And a lot of bands were just going through the motions. And every time you phoned up to try and book a band like Bakerloo, the first question you get is, they're not a blues band, are they? So we decided to showcase them. So I rented the upstairs room of a pub called The Crown on Station Street, which is still there, although it's semi-derelict, at the bottom of the American steps behind the station, the roughest looking pub in town. Well, that's it. And I rented the upstairs room on Tuesdays, princely sum of 5 shillings, which if you took more than a certain amount of money at the bar, I didn't have to pay the 5 shillings. Called it Henry's Blues House, declared that Tuesdays is Blues Days. Henry was a particularly glamorous Afghan hound that lived in the street I lived in, and he's still there in all his glory, because we reopened Henry's last March in a different pub on Broad Street, and we reinvented Henry's again, so which is a lot of fun, but that's leaping too far forward. And we put on bands, apart from Bakerloo, we put on bands like Arthur Big Boy Crudup, who wrote That's All Right Now Mama, which is a hit for Elvis, Son House, Jesse Fuller, Curtis Jones, Champion Jack Dupree, from New Orleans, for some bizarre reason lived in Halifax. Not quite good. Actually, it was a woman was involved, of course. Later he lived in Sweden for the same reason, well, different woman for the same reason, and then Switzerland. And we also put on British bands, like Jethro Tull, 10 Years After, Status Quo, Rory Gallagher and Taste. And the opening night, amongst the people who signed up and paid a year's subscription to be members, were John Michael Osborne and Anthony James Iommi. And I didn't know they played. And over the weeks I got to talking to them, because the blues mafia things, it's, blues people always talk to each other. We love using words like Muddy Waters, Human Summer, and Buddy Guy. It's nice to hear those names. So we're chatting, because they said, we've got a band. I said, okay. He said, can we play the opening spot? So we said, yeah. Princely sum of £5, that was the support band fee. They said, we don't want the money, we want a Henry's Blues House t-shirt each, which was the deal. And they were very good indeed. So I follow this thread?
Yeah.
I soon promoted them to be a feature band, and soon they were the biggest attraction in the club. And their audience was different, in other words. People who came to see them didn't necessarily come to hear the regular blues stuff. And we all got bigger crowds. They'd come early, they'd sit down on the floor. It was bizarre. 160 capacity room, we had 200 people in there, all sitting on the floor. Apart from those that got up and put their head inside the bass bin, which was a bit of a habit in those days. And then they said, will I manage them? The answer, of course, was yes. At the same time I was managing Locomotive, I'd also picked up along the way a band called Tin Symphony from Moseley, and Bakerloo, of course. So we had the 4 bands. And that really was the start of Big Bear, I suppose.
Yeah, the actual name Big Bear in terms of records was something slightly different, though, wasn't it? That was to do with Locomotive, but a different story.
You can all see how lithe and nimble I am. For some reason, John Peel thought I deported myself like a bear, which would refer to me as the big bear from Birmingham. But I quite like that, so I kept it. And that bear was as lithe and nimble as I am.
Yeah.
Portly, in fact.
And when a dispute arose about about Locomotive's next release, then Big Bear Records came into being.
Yeah, we had the hit with Rudy's in Love, and I wanted to do another ska record to follow it up. EMI Parlophone, a record label, wanted to do something progressive, because progressive music at that time was suddenly exploding, and Norman Haynes, our keyboard player, He liked progressive music as well, so they all ganged up on me. But I produced in Birmingham a master of a Christmas record. Oh, it sounds laughable, it's actually a good recording. It's called Rudy the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and it was a lot of fun. And EMI turned it down. So what do you do when you've got a master on your hands? You set up a record label. So I talked to David Betteridge at Island Records. He said, I'll distribute it for you. So the first Big Bear record actually has an Island catalogue number on it. And that was the first Big Bear record.
And at the same time, you're managing Black Sabbath and things were getting interesting.
Yes. I don't know which way to follow that.
No, I don't quite. It does cross my mind that in the book we have some very interesting stories about your involvement with court cases and people who ended up in jail and so on and so forth. And the first of the court cases was, of course, Black Sabbath.
Well, there was a nearly court case over our logo.
Oh, yes.
I paid £20 to a company on Hackney Road to design me a bear. And when they glued it to me, I said, it looks a lot like Baloo the bear. It's no, it's different colour, it'll be alright. So we put the record out, and we had a story about it in the Daily Mail. And we got a letter from a lawyer in London saying cease and desist, otherwise Walt Disney's going to descend upon you. So we quickly changed the bear. That was the first brush we had.
Yeah, don't mess with a mouse.
I'm not sure where we go from here. Ron, guide me.
Well, I was thinking you could talk about the situation with Black Sabbath. I mean,
Okay.
people will have, I'm sure, their individual questions about Black Sabbath, but the final departure is always a good story.
Okay. A lot of my old jazz friends, great, none of you here. My old jazz friends, a bit snobby, and they feel that, what are you doing with that pop band? Well, my answer is always, just go listen to Paranoid. Just go listen to the first album. They were the tightest, most together band you've ever heard in your life. We made that first album, it started 11 o'clock in the morning, by 10 at night we finished it. A day full of one takes. The producer, so I produced a demo version of exactly the same songs that went on the album. Took it to 14 straight record companies for distribution. I got turned down. Now at that time I had Nina Simone on EMI Harvest, Bakerloo EMI Harvest, and Locomotive on Parlophone all at the same time. So I did have a bit of an entree into A&R Ben's offices, but I still got turned down. Then I talked to my publisher who published all those bands, David Platts at Essex Music, and I said, "Can you lend me the money to make an album, Black Sabbath?" He agreed to, but on condition we use his producer, who was a first-timer called Roger Bain. And it was David's production company was called Tuesday Productions. So we went to the studio, Regent Sound, it went smoothly. Roger did nothing. And on the way back we said, "Oh, Ponce, London producer, doesn't know what he's doing, just sat there, pressed record." They said, "Fine chaps, let's do the next song." And it took me a long time to realise that was pure genius, because you didn't need to mess with what they were doing. What they were doing was right. It was played live, captured live. You have to remember, as I said a few months ago, that band was so together, so tight. And later on I realised, a lot of record producers, and I know a lot of them, always try and insert something of themselves into a recording. Simon Cowell always plays tambourine or does something. They always try to put themselves into it. But he had the wisdom, even as I'm 21 years old or something, to step and say, "No, this is right, I'm just going to record it." And also, I have to give him full credit. That thunderstorm at the beginning of the first track on Black Sabbath, a song called Black Sabbath, is undoubtedly the finest intro to any rock record. It's fantastic. The thunderstorm, the lightning claps, and that dirty great bass riff coming in. Wonderful moment. It still is. And that we didn't put that on. We didn't hear that until we get the finished pressing from Roger Bain, and he was great. And we stayed pals for a long time. Lots of my respect. But one of the reasons Sabbath was so tight, people don't believe this, but it's true. I booked them 3 times into the Star Club in Hamburg. He may associate with the Beatles. And we did a month at a time. And midweeks, that was Sunday, no, we had Sunday off. Monday to Thursday, they played 6 45-minute sets a night. That's 8 till 8:45. could see Dean wincing over there. 8 till 8:45, 9 till 9:45, right through till 2 o'clock.
You did the same with us.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. So Dean is the original drummer and founder member of the wonderful King Clever and Biscuit Boys. So,
So Jim did the same with us. So that's Paris, where we play 7 nights a week.
Yeah, who shares?
Like 6 times 45 minutes.
Yes.
Which is a slot.
You come back tight, man. And also, you'll hate this, at weekends, Friday, Saturday, at Hamburg, he did 8:45s, 8 o'clock at night till 4 in the morning. And they came back to the Brews, but they go out and play 2 times 1 hour in Birmingham, and it's a stroll in the park. In fact, Led Zeppelin used to consider themselves our rivals then. They weren't, they were sloppy. But we used to have a slogan, Black Sabbath makes Led Zeppelin sound like a kindergarten house band. That's true. Okay,
I asked you about the court case.
which one? Oh, my one.
The one with Black Sabbath.
Well, okay.
I think a little word of respect for Mr. Arden might might not come amiss.
I don't think if the word Don Arden is familiar to many of you. He's the self-styled godfather of British rock. And I heard him on somebody's BBC, Roger Cook's BBC programme, and he was boasting about all the. He revelled in being seen as near mafia, but he was brilliant to me.
Yeah. Roger Cook, whether you remember, he used to do these exposés on all kinds of people. He did a famous one on Don Arden. Except that Jim says that Don Arden enjoyed it.
Don perpetuated that story, but I never know whether to believe it or not, that he negotiated with Robert Stigwood, over the Small Faces contract, exactly with his henchman dangling Stigwood out of a 5th floor window by his ankles whilst he negotiated. Don always boasted about that. But when I lost, first of all, Don tried to steal Sabbath from me. He sent out his 2 henchmen, Patrick Meehan and Wilf Pine, and they failed twice. Then they quit Don. Now, Don was a real old-fashioned showbiz man, and loyalty was a big thing. He hated Pine and Meehan for walking out to him. But then they did worse. They went out to him and they stole Sabbath off me successfully. Don came to see me, put his arm around my shoulder and said, "Jim, how can they do that to a nice guy like you?" Well, I didn't have the balls to say, "Well, Don, you tried to do the same thing." But he befriended me. He gave me an office in Portland Place, run it off BBC, and you have to pay for it. And I guess I was a good listener because he had lots of. I mean, he worked with Charlie Wayne and later on with ELO, but he had a lot of Birmingham connections. And his number 2 there was the singer of the Nashville Teens, Arthur Sharp. And it was really great music scene to be in. And upstairs was Chas Chandler from Animals, who was handling Jimi Hendrix at the time, so it was a pretty cool place to be. And he called me in the office and tell me stories about how terrible these musicians are and how they do really, really bad things, and how by that time, later on, he'd signed Ozzy, who'd been sacked by Sabbath. And that Ozzy, effing Animals, blah, blah, blah. He said, the only person who can handle it is my little Sharon, the only person who can handle Ozzy. And the day that Sharon told her dad that she was going to marry Ozzy, he was in tears. He called me. His secretary said, the Don was to see you. And I went in. He didn't speak to me for minutes. He was weeping on the. I was on the desk. But he was. One day I was late to go to the office. I used to get the 8:15 from Birmingham. I was in the office about 10 to 10. And I came about 1 o'clock. To go. This says, "Where have you been? The Don's been asking for you." I said, "I had a break-in," and told her all about it. I did have a break-in. And she said, "What did they take?" I said, "I took my Reeboks, they took my big tunnels, they took my amp." "Oh, that's terrible." Anyway, I went in, stayed late, went home at night about 8 o'clock, and secretary said, "Those are for you." The whole line of boxes, new Reeboks, new tunnels. And I still got the tunnels, they still sound great. So, Don had and also, I had a lawyer who wasn't very good. I think a counsel was even worse. I was offered £80,000 to agree before we went to court, and the counsel James, somebody, said, "Oh, we'll come out with at least 200,000. So, what do? Trust him. And third day in court, he came and said, they've got no money. He said, we've agreed to settle for 35,000. What? I said, it's okay. We'll get 8,000 on the day, and we'll get the rest, whatever. So we got 8,000 on the day. Legal aid had 6, the council had 1, and I got 1. And 14 years in a series of minor court cases financed by Don Arden to get the rest, get the balance. So,
Okay,
is that court case you mean?
Yeah, I'm at that course. We've got other court cases coming, don't we? But I think we've been a bit of shift gear because we've got a lot of, as the book is arranged, those of you who have seen it will realise, apart from the first chapter all on about everything from Pee Wee Hunt to Gibraltar and various other things, apart from that, it's all thematic because Jim has had a habit all his life of changing gear but also keeping other threads going on at the same time. We're not mentioning the fact that this time he was doing a lot of photography with all kinds of big star names, Little Richard, Chuck Berry and all the rest of them. So that's going on at the same time. But the main shift in the 70s was away from the charts into blues music. And I think really the two chapters in the book that I most enjoy reading and even enjoyed writing, or writing at Jim's behest, are the 2 chapters on about American bluesmen between probably about 73 and 80, I would think. I don't mean their age, I mean the years. Yeah, tell us about that.
When I lost Sabbath, it's important to go around finding other British bands to build them up just to lose them again, because stealing bands from less established management was pretty rife in those days. So I decided to return to my love of the blues, which really started when I was 14. My mother took me, I don't remember why she would do it, but one of us took me to see Big Bill Brunsey at Town Hall. And that really stayed with me. It was a long time before I was able to find recordings and hear people playing like that. But then the British blues boom happened. Thanks to Lippman and Rao from Frankfurt, they brought over this blues caravan. And I got to photograph them. So I met Muddy, Cousin Joe, Sumlin, Howling Wolf, Little Walter, Big Walter Horton, all of the guys, and that really inspired me. So when I lost Sabbath, I decided to start bringing in American bluesmen. There was no such thing as emails, and you couldn't Google anything. But there's a sort of international blues mafia. You got to know people. I got to know a guy who I can't remember now, who's now the director of the New Orleans Heritage Festival, and a guy from Detroit called Fred Reef. And they put me in touch with old blues guys. They found Lightning Slim was a star of Excella Records in the 50s and 60s. Great player, really important man. He found it, he'd been cheated down his royalties, so he took a train, he went up to Pontiac, Michigan, didn't take a guitar with him, went to work at a foundry, was a furnaceman, and it was terrible. When he came, when I first met him, his face was sort of burned white on his nose, and his bit to stick out. He's part Indian, so his cheekbones were burned white on his nose. It was terrible. He didn't have a guitar, so Fred and I clubbed together, got him a guitar, got him three suits, very smart suits, and brought him on tour. I did 6 weeks with him, and he played maybe 5 or 6 nights every week, and he never went back to work. He never went back to the foundry the rest of his life. We made lots of recordings with him. He also recorded for Mike Vernon's Blue Horizon label, and I think he did some stuff for Bud Howell's New Excella Records again. And he was wonderful to work with. He wasn't the first. The first was Eddie Burns. Now, I learned very quickly, if you're going to sell American bluesmen mainly to students or audiences throughout Britain and Europe, everything's with concert halls and students' unions, normally a few clubs. They've got to have a name, like Lightning Slim or Homesick James or Washboard Willie. You've got to have an exotic sounding name, otherwise promoters aren't going to buy them. But my first tour was with Eddie Burns, and people said, "Oh, you mean the guy from 677 Sunset Strip?" There was an actor there called Eddie Burns. So after a while, I realised, and he sent me a photograph of him holding a Gretsch guitar, and the neck was the wrong way around, so Gretsch was spelled backwards. And so I knew he was a singer, And I knew he played harmonica, but obviously guitar's his main thing because he's sitting in front of it. So I called it Eddie Guitar Burns. And one of the blues mafia in London, a really knowledgeable, helpful man called Michael Edmonton, who, if I remember now, put me in touch with a Fred Reeves as well. I went down the 100 Club the night before the flight came in. I was staying in London, pick up the red eye as it came in, and meet Eddie Burns. I was at the bar at the 100 Club. Mike Edmonton, I was so excited, Jim. But Eddie Burns coming in this morning. He said, I never knew he could play guitar. My heart went, oops. Because Mike led me to do everything. And you couldn't believe my joy when he came out of Arrivals holding a big old guitar case. But Eddie, after that tour, continued to call us Eddie Guitar Burns up to his death. So,
Well, I think the most interesting thing on the blues chapters, because what you're not mentioning at the moment is the fact that there were 3 big tours, was it 4 afterwards, with a whole package of 6 or so bluesmen. So there's a lot of bluesmen being carted around Europe and lots of entertaining occurrences. Not all of them were totally sober all the time. And I think the stories, particularly Dr. Ross in the book, are. Would you like to give us a Dr. Ross story?
can I start by going back around to these tours called American Blues Legends, 73, 74, 75, through to 79. The reason we did it, because a guy came to work for me, booking the actor called Rob Cowlin, who had ambitions to be a roadie, and he bought us a very posh puce green splitter van, Mercedes, very nice, but he couldn't get any work with it. So he said, what can I do? I said, I know. I said, we put a blues tour around, so we chose 6 musicians, because it was a 10-seater, so I have the British guitar-based drums, or sometimes just bass and drums, and a driver, and me. And that was the beginning of the American Blues Legends tours. And one of the early tours, the very first one, 73, Boogie Woogie Red from Detroit was a really good, funny guy, really funny, great piano player, good singer. And the band was Lightning Slim, Whispering Smith, Homesick James, Snooky Pryor, Washboard Willie and Boogie Woogie Red. And on the last night in the European leg, before we came back to England, we were at this quayside, so an earthly hour in Zeebrugge, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, and Boogie Woogie Red and Slim had bought a bottle of whiskey, and it was all gone. And they're arguing at who drank the most. Man, you had more. No, I didn't. They got out of the van on this quayside, which was icy then because the wind was going up the sea, slipped around, really falling over, trying to fight each other over who drank too much whiskey. Got on the ferry, they bought another bottle of whiskey, and then it was okay again. But Dr. Ross.
Dr. Ross.
Oh,
yeah.
Dr. Ross.
Yeah.
Dr. Isaiah Ross from Tunica, Mississippi, was not a doctor, but he kept his harmonicas in a little doctor's case. They don't call him doctor. He was the star of Sun Records, Tennessee, in Memphis. That was Sam Phillips' record label. Now, Sam had produced lots of stuff for Modern Records and for Chess, other people as a production company, but he set his own label up when there was a boom in the juke joints in Mississippi. He set his own label up to record race artists for race records. And the star, one of the stars, probably the biggest star, was Dr. Ross in those days, before Sam went on to record white artists. He made a lot of money for Sam, and Sam looked after him. And once when I had Dr. Ross over here, I was sitting in a cab on Oxford Street when Oxford Street was open to cabs, and Dr. Ross kept looking at me in a funny way. He said, now you face me with somebody. He thought, I reminded him of somebody. So yes, he talked a lot of rubbish most of the time, but occasionally it was interesting. And he go, oh yeah, man, yeah, you really face me. I said, who? He said, Eric. I said, who's Eric? Eric, you know Eric, guitar player. I said, don't be Clapton. Yeah, man, you look just like it. Well, we all had long hair and denim jackets. So I said, you look like Clapton. Suddenly very impressed. So yeah, man, yeah, came by my house. What? Well, I remembered that Cream had a big hit with Cat Squirrel, which was Dr. Ross's big hit on Sun Records 10, 20 years earlier. Jethro Tull did it later as well, by the way. And he said, yeah, came by my house. He said, they came to give us some money for my record. "Oh, isn't that nice?" I said, "What the hell did you give me?" He said, $200. Anyway, apparently they took him to Ann Arbor, close by Detroit, on an Ann Arbor Blues Festival, and this was impressing me madly. Everything he told us, I was really salivating, and said, "Yes, I played. I went on stage for them." I said, "You playing the Cream?" "Yeah, yeah." I said, "What are they like, Doc? What do you think of them?" He said, "It was nice, boys, but it was awful loud." Best ever review of Cream, I think.
Yeah, well, we're coming on towards the halfway point. Breaking in about 10 minutes' time, I think. We've only got on to chapter 8 out of about 20. But we've got to do some jazz before we break, haven't we?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. One of the things in the book that I like is the sort of personal profiles of various eminent jazz people, notably the great Kenny Baker and Humphrey Lytton. There's a nice chapter on each of them. But before we break, let's just get on to Jim's own jazz activities. 85, was it? You did the first Birmingham Festival, or was that the Callan Hill Park thing?
Early 80s, I sort of drifted away from jazz because I was in the blues. And I was getting really frustrated by the sort of music being marketed as jazz. Fusion was the dominant word, but it became improv later on. They seemed to get away from the essence of swing. You know, that thing, for me, jazz music has to swing, has to kick along a bit. And in desperation, I decided to talk to Mitchells and Butlers, a local brewery, and ask them to sponsor an event called the M&B Jam Session at Cannon Hill Park's Arena Theatre, featuring an idea I stole from Eddie Condon, two 4-piece front lines and a 4-piece rhythm section. And so you had one 8-piece band, there's a different 8-piece band, then they not just swapped 4 bars with each other, but the whole front line was swapped 4s with the other front lines, which was great. And I booked my favourite British jazz players, including Humph, Digby Fairweather, and Dick Morrissey,
A couple of Roys.
Roy Williams and Roy Crimmins, Jack Parnell. No, Jack Parnell was the second year. But top players. And we recorded it. And we got the Sunday Times Jazz Album of the Year on Big Bear. Just like after the jam session. And that. Then Malcolm Powell, which was the Butlers, and the guy who ran the Holly Inn, which is now the Grand Plaza, asked me to go for a cup of coffee with them. And they said, "We want to do it again next year. We want to have a festival." And Malcolm said, "Mitchells and Butlers will sponsor you." Which was great. And Stephen Carter said, "I'll give you 100 rooms." A posh hotel like that. So that was the start. And the following year, we did the first Birmingham Jazz Festival. The 36th year of it is this year, from the 17th to 26th of July.
And how has it changed?
Radically. Forcibly, by the way, because the great names we had in the early days, we had Art Blakey with the Count Basie Band 3 times, Buddy Rich, Miles Davis,
MJQ.
Illinois Jacket Big Band. The one time they ever played it in England was in the Grand Hotel's Grosvenor Suite, doing a live BBC broadcast. But all the top players around, I mean, slightly less known players like Helsing, no, excellent players, they're not around anymore. It's very hard. And most of our star players these days are European, Central European. I think it will start in the 60s when we started producing great players like Roy Williams. I mean, you have to ask yourself why Ruby Braff, one of the top trumpet players ever in jazz, when he did a coast-to-coast tour in the USA, 3 times he did it, he rented a British trombone player. It says something. But that was the beginning of our festival. And when I lost a lot of money to Miles Davis, I decided future way forward is to put on free events, no ticket charge. Last year, 218 of the 234 shows were free. Because then you know what your box office return is, i.e. nil, but at least you can do your sums. You can work it out. It's a wonderful cooperation as a jazz festival. It's like 111 venues last year. It'll put some money in. Another 40 different companies probably One company might pay for the photography sessions, one might provide hotel rooms, another might give us PAs, backlines and pianos, and it's a great cooperation. And it's hard work, it's very, very labour intensive, but at least you're not going to lose your house with any luck.
And it expands geographically.
Yeah, and name-wise as well. It's now the Birmingham, Sandwell and West Side. West Side is Broad Street. Those are the three people who put Core Funny into it. But this year we're to Wolverhampton as well, Redditch, Lichfield. Because if you put a show in Lichfield, people enjoy it, they take your pre-festival program off you, there's every chance they're going to come to Birmingham and see the other shows. It's all free.
Where is Beerley? I went there last year. It was a long way. I can't remember where it was.
Redditch.
Redditch, of course it is. Yeah, that was nice.
Just north of.
Anyway, before we break, I want to ask about one thing. There's two big areas that we haven't got around to that I want to put questions. So after the break, if we have questions from you, I'm going to stick a couple of my own in there that I would like answered as well. When we break, the copies of the book just through there on the counter, have a look at. How long should we break for when we do it? 15 minutes? Is that right? Yeah. But before that, I want you to tell us something about the longest saga about one band, the King Pleasure of the Whiskey Boys. How did they come about? And
Well, I love the way
what are the repeatable stories?
Well, it doesn't matter what a repeatable is, there's so many of them. The band started, to my mind, in an unusual way. It was a bunch of guys. You weren't there at the beginning, were you?
Not right.
No, no. What's the guy's name? The drummer?
Before they
Yeah.
Animal Page.
He wrote me this week. He's now called Crawler or something. Anyway, 6 guys sat around in a milk bar in Darlaston and decided, because they loved Slade and they just about discovered Bill Haley, let's form a rocking band. All right, not one of them played an instrument, so I was like, I'll be the saxophone player, I'll be the drummer, and that's how they formed, and they learned to play. You were with the band when I met them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you weren't.
We still work called Keepers of Music.
Some Like It Hot?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And the Satellites was.
Yeah, it sounded a reggae band, yeah. And they, I don't know how I knew you, but you went to the talent competition in Birmingham and I was a judge. I think that's probably when I met you. And I loved what they did, and they did their set, and there was a break-in scene for the rest of the band's. And I said, go and advance on the money now, please. I said, what do you mean? Well, we've got to win, aren't we? So you're judging. But they did win. And at first, I'll do one story, I hope it doesn't embarrass you. First gig I got for them after that was in C&A's on Corporation Street in Birmingham, and they were about an hour late. And I was going mad, and when they were like, Mark's famous words were, well, we were only from Walsall. That excuses all. And I'm still managing them 34 years later. We just wish the original drummer would come back.
Okay, let's start off with a little aperitif, a nice trivial question. Whatever happened to Billy the Kid?
Well, the answer is I have no idea whatsoever. He did American Blues Legends 79, I think. Yeah, 79. It's long tours, well, most tours are long, 7 weeks, I think. And we had a bus. We looked for a 52-seater bus, a local company called Dan Caney, yeah. And he's a blues fan. I had to pay the weekly salary for the driver. I got the rest all free. Well, paid for fuel as well, of course. It was great. But to have maybe 6 or 8 of us, or 10 of us, in a 52-seater bus. So, he played somewhere like Cologne in Germany, and 3 or 4 blues fans said, we're playing tomorrow, we're playing Stuttgart. Oh, we'll try and get down there. So don't bother, come on the bus with us. It was a great facility to offer people. But he was always an awkward son. The guys, most of them, especially Eddie C. Campbell, were real party people. And he was very religious, and he'd sit at the front of the bus on his own, his nose in the air. He'd come back to the back of the bus, and the guys would be drinking a taste of moonshine. And he'd criticise them and bawl about it. It was 7 weeks of him criticising. And the last night of the show, the tour, I think it was Manchester or Preston, somewhere there. And no, it wasn't. It was the other side of the Alps, what they called it.
No, it wasn't. It was it was.
Anyway, we crossed the Pennine and there's this little transport cafe on the top of a hill, miles from anywhere. We stopped at 2 or 3 in the morning, bacon, egg and chips and a cup of tea, and got back on the bus, and we waited and waited and waited, and he never turned up. He had his flight ticket, and I presume he made the flight, I never heard from him. But later on, it transpired he became a vicar, a priest, a clergyman in his own church. But he wrote great lyrics. He wrote a song called, his lyric was, nothing in my shoes but the bottom, that's more than I can say. Ain't nothing in my pocket but the bottom, that's more than I can say for my shoes. If you want the blues boy, I've got him. I just don't know how to get him loose. But buzzard luck. Great lyric, great song. A great loss. Gain to the church, but great loss to the blues.
Jazz Festival. Oh, no, here's a challenging one from Tom Mannion. How was Miles Davis to deal with?
Untouchable. There were a 5-piece on stage. There were 9 people travelling, 3 of which were lawyers. I had another encounter with him. Oh, well, we didn't get anywhere near him. He wasn't very interested in being nice to the audience either. He spent most of his time with his back to them and being very aloof. We had the NEC, a smaller room, which I think was 4,500 capacity, and we got in just over 2,000. And it was the best marketing of any jazz event I've ever seen. It was sponsored by Carlsberg, and they had these huge, great 48-sheet banners and things all over the city, and he still didn't sell. But we encountered him later. He was awarded. We got together with Getson Trumpets at Digby Fairweather, was a Getson Trumpet in Dorset, and every year the British Jazz Awards we presented the Getson Fairweather Award. And obviously Miles didn't come to the Grand Hotel in Birmingham, unlike Nina Simone, who did, by the way, another year. He's playing in London, so Digby and I went to the hotel in London, where Miles Davis hoodlum that had projectors. We told him what we wanted. He said, I'll go and talk to Mr. Davis. Came back and said, Mr. Davis says, send it to his lawyer. This is trumpet he'd been awarded. Send it to his lawyer. So Miles Davis.
Nice guy, yeah. Big headed, yeah.
I don't think he's that good. I think he's the worst of Charlie Parker's trumpet players. Clifford was better, Dizzy certainly, Fats Navarro.
The point is that all the trumpet players out here either died or burnt themselves out so quickly, and apart from Dizzy, and Miles survived. I mean, you can't imagine with some of these people, particularly Clifford, you can't imagine that Miles would have had the dominance that he had in late years if they'd survived. I can't think. Okay, where should we go now? I know. I was going to ask you, and you half raised it yourself. Tell us all about Miss Simone. Now we've got 2 different stories, with 3 different stories in the book really. One is when you photographed her way back and she almost looked at you. And then there's all the stories of Val Gonzalez, is it? Raymond Gonzalez. Yeah. And then there is the night we've just heard about. So tell us a bit about your adventures with Nina.
First of all, I was sitting on a job for Melody Maker, a photographer, by arrangement, and I mean, the look of hostility. I got about 7 or 8 shots of her, and she was totally hostile to each of them. She couldn't wait to get me out of the room. British Jazz Awards is a funny one. I've got to go back a bit here. It's sort of getting boring telling. She was a piano student, a classical student at some very posh American university, which music college, which had a great record of producing black musicians who became nationally famous in the classical field. And she didn't do very well at all. And she always blamed the fact that she was black, which you really can't, because the college has a great reputation for producing black players. But anyway, to earn money in the evening, she worked in a nightclub, and Mafia-owned Mercury Records from Chicago went to her and said, could they record a session for an album? And particularly Nina, she insisted on cash, payment in advance, and she got $5,000, which was a lot of money in those days. But she signed away all the rights to the record. After Mercury exhausted its interest in it, they leased it to a company in Florida, and I was at MEAD one year, that's a music industry convention in Cannes, with some friends of mine who ran Charlie Records in London, and they leased it off the company in Miami. I had put it out, and it was doing okay, it wasn't that too well, until Chanel No. 5 picked up on My Baby Just Cares For off the album. And it was the song that they used in the TV ad, and it went to the roof, it went platinum. And Jean-Luc Young was a French guy, lived in London, he was my pal there, and he bought his house, he told me on it. Nina always said she was ripped off. Well, so she was in a way, but you know. But she paid for herself to come over from Amsterdam, paid her own flights, came to the Grand Hotel. She was charming in the afternoon. I had tea with her. At night, the Grand Hotel is an old building, and I was on my hands and knees in the corridor, crack under the door, shouting, Miss Simone, Miss Simone. There's 340 people downstairs. I got messages from the kitchen saying, the chef's going mad. He wants to know when he can start serving the food. He's got the food ready for us. Anyway, it was fraught evening. Eventually she came down half an hour late. The room exploded in applause for her. The chef came over charmingly and said, whatever you want, Miss Simone, I can make for you. She said, I'd like a sandwich. So anyway, so I had a sandwich. Benny Green, BBC presenter, he and Humphrey presenting, and they said, hey, wonderful, what's that, Nina here? And the room applauded her, and she just looked it together. Eventually she shuffled us on stage. As the tumult died down, I remember her speech word for word. She said, thank you very much. It's up. It was an ungracious woman. I can't tell the story about Rome, can I?
Oh, yeah, of course you can.
I have to use the word more usually associated with King Pleasure and the Whiskey Boys than. Raymond Gonzalez, one of my dear pals, managed her for 18 years. He should have a medal for that. But one night in Rome, they were doing 6 nights in a nightclub. And on the last night, in the dress, the club came in and found Nina pinning Raymond against the wall with a knife in his throat. And he said, no, not in here. And Raymond said, not in fucking anywhere.
Okay, I'm going to go on to one of my questions that I've been saving up. How did you get involved with Ronnie Scott's club?
Oh, quite easily. Brian Theobald, dear departed, great pal of mine. When I got no money, he let me have bands like Buddy Rich Band on a straight percentage. That means if nobody turns up, nobody buys a ticket, it didn't cost me anything. So I could put some great old bands on because of him. He's a really good man. He was part of the group of people who ran Ronnie Scott's in London. BPA they were called. B for Brian Theobald, P for Pete King, and R for Ronnie Scott. And during the Jazz Festival one year, we put music into what was called the Rep Cafe Bar, run by a couple of scoundrels. One of them was Alan Sartori. Sorry, I know Derek's pal, but we always argue about this slightly. Anyway, obviously the people doing this, they did very well in the Jazz Festival, and they got a lot of people in, decided to put on jazz year round, which we booked for them. After a few months, Alan called me in and said, who is this Ronnie Scott fellow then, people you're telling me about? He said, do you know? I said, yeah. He said, I want to do a Ronnie Scott's in Birmingham. Do you know anybody? I said, yeah, I do. So I set up a meeting, and I went to it, and they talked about everything except music. And I didn't get invited to any more meetings because Pete King thought he could book the bands better than we could. And they opened Ronnie Scott's on Broad Street. You all know where that was, it's now a strip club. After about 10 months, Alan called me. He wanted to book King Pleasure to play there, and you did very well, which is what most of the bands were. And Alan said, well, I booked the bands for him, try and keep them open till Christmas. She did, and KP became probably the top draw there. I mean, some draws like we did Tony Bennett night, there was special, regular bands, KP was a big draw. And we booked bands there for 9 years, out of their 10 years. Is that it?
No, I think really you wanted to add a bit more to that. How did the whole thing end?
Oh, they went bust spectacularly. They owed you money.
Several times.
Yes, that's right. They always open the next night, and then they go to the strip club. And I say that because the guys that ran the Ronnie Scott's Music Club, the same guys that ran the strip club, which shows how much they. I once said to Alan, Alan once said to me, stop giving the press free tickets, make them pay. Stop giving them free drinks. Because we used to get amazing coverage in the media. I said, you can't do that. And we walked around the club, this was one Wednesday morning, and we said, Alan, you and back up saying, don't talk to me, I don't listen, don't talk to me. I said, I lost my temper. I said, Alan, I said, all we want is people to walk past this club, not wee in your toilet to make a mess, not put cigarettes in your ashtrays, not make the glasses dirty, just throw money in. He said, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Right. Compared with Marbella, though, the people involved with Rollins were pretty saintly, really, weren't they? I mean, how many people on the Marbella Council ended up in jail? Was it about 25 or something?
22.
I think Marbella is probably the most, no, I don't know, it's one of the most interesting adventures in the book.
Yes.
About it.
It wasn't that the people around Scots were not as wicked as Marbella, just they weren't as good at being wicked as Marbella.
And there weren't so many of them.
I mean, Marbella was a real shoestring affair. It's a council run, it's sponsored by something Andalus, which was
Junta
Andalus, which is a tourist organisation, but they couldn't put money up front to pay airfares. So I was doing all these on my American Express, which really bit me in the bum the last year of 5, because when they went bust, I was owed €11,000 and never got that back. But what happened really, the guy called Jesus Gil y Gil was our first encounter as the mayor of Marbella, and he owned Atletico Madrid Football Club. And as Atletico Madrid Football Club took the field, they had the word Marbella on the chest, which I thought was a bit strange for a club in Madrid, but it was that level of corruption which is acceptable in Spain. Everyone knew he was using Marbella money to fund his own club. Anyway, then he went to prison, and eventually he died in prison. They'll put him up until he didn't die, and they got 3 good reasons for this, if I can remember them. One was that when someone of his stature, his son was the mayor of San Pedro Alcantara, just down the road, and his daughter was the mayor of North African enclave, Melilla, North Africa. Melilla, and he's a pretty important man. There was Lion State, and he didn't. Then there's always a squabble between the family because the inheritance laws in Spain are a bit strange, and they all fight over the estate, all break it up, all break certain things. And the third reason they gave he didn't die was that he supposedly died in a hospital which he owned. So they figure he's somewhere in Argentina. But on the night...
If I could just interrupt one, this was his second bout with prison. The first one is really quite horrifying, because early in his career he was responsible for building, was there a residential block or a hotel, residential block I think, and the materials he used were appallingly shoddy, and there was no water in it or whatever, and it fell down and many people were killed, and he ended up in jail, but a friend of his called Francisco Franco, made sure he didn't stay there too long.
I mean, it's real. I mean, Marbella, a real fascist enclave. Marbella's coat of arms to this day has got that sheath where things keep arrows in, which is the fascist symbol. It's in the current Marbella coat of arms. Derek had some experience of this because he came one year. I have to say, that was the day you were there when he died.
Yes.
They called me into a town hall about 11 or 12 o'clock at night before to say, cancel the festival, Ambassador Festival. It was a Saturday. It was a bit of a Campesi band coming in from Holland. It was a full program, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 shows. And I begged and pleaded, they allowed me to keep the Basie band on, but I had to cancel all the rest. And the word got out to the staff, and went into the office this morning, and none of them turned up. Of course, when you've got all 20 odd shows cancelled with musicians and audiences and pub owners, whatever, there's a lot more work to do than if it just goes ahead. So I've got Derek and John James on the phone now, bad Spanish. It was quite a day. But the basic band were terrific.
And that was another song. Well, there's all kinds of stories. Like I was thinking about the Sun Ra tale, about all the cancellations and the extra time. That was a good time when Sun Ra were there.
Yeah, we sort of had one night, but the rest of the tour was cancelled. The Italian leg was cancelled, and the woman that ran them, Gabrielle Kleinschmidt, said she'll keep me in their house for 3 extra days. Can I accommodate them in Marbella? So I went to cars there'd been, so we shifted them out to this 5-star hotel. Well, they weren't there yet. We shifted the booking out to 5-star hotel to a 2-star, and we had 4 days. And we had 4 days hanging around this summer art. It was memorable. Yeah. And I tell you, they're so great. I asked them to do a photo call for me. It's one picture on the beach that you mentioned before. And they turned up, do a photo call in all their stage gear with their instruments and played for half an hour on the beach. They were great. But the Basie one was a funny one because the flight was supposed to leave at 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning out of Amsterdam. And it was delayed till about midday, and they got in, I think, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They were due on stage at 7, and they were all angry and whatever else. And the hotel was taking ages booking them in. And I said to Bill Hughes, we know Bill Hughes, the leader of the band for ages, he was a good pal. I said, I'll get the stage set up for you. Don't worry, you guys get some sleep. So they got a little bit of sleep, and I set the stage. It was such a thrill to get out these pads, all these orchestrations, some of the original in Neil Hefti's handwriting. And some were got annotations on it like Frank walks to the front, like Frank Foster. These references, wonderful. Anyway, I put them all out, and Scotty Barnhart was this straw boss of the band. He goes, oh no, F did this. I said, I did. He said, you've got no right to touch these. Well, I had to, anyway. They went on stage and they played a Storm and came off. And I said to Scotty, band sounding good tonight, Scotty. He says, yes, he said, always play this good when we're angry. He said, you fancy a drink? Go in for a drink.
And Scotty is now the boss of the bass around, isn't he?
Yeah, yes, he is. Yeah.
Okay, now, I've got a nice question here. Please, I don't want this answered just by one simple answer. I want this one developed a bit. Bam Bam says, what was the greatest gig, performer you've ever seen? I think you ought to do at least performance and performer.
Charles Brown will be up there. And he recorded with Charles Brown. Absolute master. One of the most influential people in rhythm and blues, and he's not really well known at all. You say he is, but honestly he isn't. He took, Ray Charles took his name Charles from Charles Brown. You read Nat King Cole's book, his main influence was Charles Brown. And his first two recordings that Nat Cole made, he sounds like Charles. He was absolutely wonderful. We're in Norway with you, I think. Yes, we were with you when Al was on tenor. And we were at breakfast one morning, and I was with Buddy Guy and the old Chicago guys, which I knew of old. And when Charles came in, they all started singing Merry Christmas, Baby. Which is a big hit. It's great. All these gnarly, tough old bluesmen. So Charles Brown's right up there. I would also say, it sounds a bit personal, but Kenny Baker's band.
Oh, yeah.
As I said earlier, Kenny Baker was my hero when I was at school. Eventually I got to meet him, and I'd been in the business a few years, and I got to know him as a pal. I'd stayed at his house, and I nagged him to put the band together again.
Yeah, explain that the band wasn't a working band on the road.
Kenny Baker's dozen in his Paris studios in London. They'd arrived in the afternoon, and they totally set new arrangements each week. They didn't do anything standard, all new stuff, which Kenny had orchestrated. Did a live one-hour broadcast. They did a bit of rehearsal, went to the pub for a couple of hours, came out and went live on air at 9 o'clock. And they were stunning.
And this was all through the 50s?
Yeah. There were clickers, of course there were clickers, but the excitement was wonderful. So I nagged him to get the band together again. And eventually he said, okay, we'll do a deal. He'll rewrite the orchestrations, and I'll book all the musicians. I want nothing to do with musicians, and you book them all. Of course, when I booked them, he interrogated over every one of them. The one funny thing, he said, I don't need the old guys at all. I'm a totally new band. I don't. Lenny Bush was around, so I don't know Lenny. And I thought he meant Len Skeet, who was my go-to bass player at the time. And I think that book Len Skeet. So I didn't. I put Dave Green, who was brilliant, of course. But Len Skeet's never forgiven me for not booking that. But the day they sat at Ronnie Scott's club, I sat at the back. They opened the orchestrations. There were men there in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and Billy Geldar, trombone player, was in his 70s. And when they opened those orchestrations, some of those men had not been born last time they opened, and other guys had played them last time they opened, and the band was sensational. And about 3 nights in, Bruce Adams, how boisterous he is, went for a drink at the intermission in the pub. Bruce said, "Oh, Kenny," he said, "we nailed it this time, a great night." And walking back to the venue, Ken said, "Did you get that, Bruce?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What a cheat." I said, "Arrogance, you've got nowhere near nailed it. I'll show him." First 3 songs he called, they hadn't rehearsed at all. Called new songs in the pad, and the side reading, hold up like a white knuckle driver. They were great. Great band.
Yeah, can I ask you to,
Yes.
I don't think I want to do more.
I've always loved the American record industry. I mean, people like Sam Phillips and Son is one of my heroes. I could reel them off. I love American record companies, but they did treat their artists very badly. I just got angrier and angrier and angrier. I mean, for instance, I signed 3 people, musicians, who had been million sellers in America, to our tiny little company in Birmingham. And I should never have had access to them. Tommy Tucker, he runs. I mean, everyone plays high heel sneakers now. Everybody's his song. When I first toured with him, he's a really nice guy, tremendous piano player. And I said, because the record's got no bass on it. And I said, that's getting rocks along madly, you know. I said, Tommy, stroke of genius not using bass on that. I said, was that your idea? He said, no, he said, motherfucker never showed. The other was Willie Maybon, who we mentioned earlier, this big hit, and the other was Mickey Sylvia. But when we found to Tommy Tucker, he was an estate agent's runner in Springfield, Ohio. For a play at night, but you know, these guys, I think the Stones did these guys a lot of good. When they went back, they really, the Stones always acknowledged their roots. They made an album called 2024 South Michigan, which was the old Chess Recording Studios address, and they recorded it in the Chess Studios itself, as we did, by the way. Blues Lessons one year, and they took it back to America. A lot of young Americans, students, they discovered the blues through Rolling Stones.
You mentioned going to record in Chicago. Let's have a word about your American recordings generally. That was quite a trip.
It was really wonderful. I got to O'Hare Airport, and I wanted to, as the black cab driver, I said, I want to go to a nice funky hotel, somewhere in the south side. So I know the place. He took me to his hotel, and it was 2 blocks away from Buddy Guy's club. So every night we got back from recording, we were all going to have Buddy Guy's. The Panama called Jimmy Dawkins, Fast Fingers Dawkins, he didn't like being called Fast Fingers. There was a really great guitar player there in Chicago. Something got overlooked. Who was Sumlin was, well, back in the day, there was Jimi Hendrix, Sumlin, Buddy Guy, and Jimmy Dawkins. And Hendrix got all the attention. Buddy Guy, because he survived, is now the grand old man of Chicago blues. Well, that's Tommy Tucker at the front there, with a big smile. Dawkins set it all up. Dawkins was a real stickler for doing things right, and he wouldn't allow it. He wouldn't book anyone for me, but he booked auditions. I was auditioning these great Chicago blues when I felt so embarrassed. And I think he had 8 or 10 for me. I had to choose 6. It was very bad. We got the studio, and he was great. He allowed everyone to drink, make sure they're all there on time. He was real. He was my military arm, as it were. And I just had to concentrate on the music. And he produced a record. The studio there was called Cody's, because Ed Cody, the engineer, previously been the Chess Records engineer, and he bought the studio from Chess when they closed down. And it was great to work there. All sorts of odd people would drop by. I didn't know half of them, but it was great.
But that was only half of it.
Oh yeah, and then we finished mixing, because I couldn't take 2-inch tapes back. There was 4 2-inch tapes on the flight, so we had to mix down as we went. So I mixed down to 1/4 inch, which was lighter. And it was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and I booked on a flight to Kansas City to go to see Claude Williams. Claude was the original guitar player with the Count Basie band. John Hammond got rid of him, is one story. The other Claude's story is that he quit because Basie didn't play fiddle, which of course he wouldn't. But anyway, Claude is, for me, maybe the top, or second or third top ever jazz violin player, stunning player. And I met him, you'll remember this.
Yeah,
I met him at
swimming pool.
I met him at North Sea Jazz Festival. I knew James Shan, and I went to see Shan's band. And Gus Johnson was on drums, Gene Raymond was on bass, Buddy Tate was on tenor, and this bloke I'd never heard of was on fiddle. So I went backstage and I talked to him a little bit. Didn't seem to talk to him much. And got his name off him. I phoned you very late at night, and I said, "I've been Claude Williams, fiddle player, researching for me." So he got the books out, went through it. Well, I said, "Wrong." He said, "He's a guitar player."
Fair enough, we both knew him as the first guitar player before Billy Green, and you were saying, "I only know him as basic guitarist." I only knew him as in those pre-Google days. Could have found out a lot more very quickly nowadays, but that's all we could find out.
And next morning, we went for swimming through a swimming pool. There were two people there, me and Claude Williams. We sort of got to know us. We trundled up and down the pool. And at the end of the tour with Shan, he came and stayed with me for 3 weeks, and he was great. It was really. I learned so much about Kansas City music. And he told me, can you believe this? Buck Clayton, dear friend of Claude's, took a 16-piece black band into, help me, Shanghai. Into Shanghai in 1934. Could you believe that? They did 3 months at the Dreamland, got hired for another 3 months, then they were headhunted by the Paramount across the street, they did 6 months at the Paramount. This black band had a year in Shanghai. Do you know what? When Sarah came back from Shanghai once, she brought me an album of a swing band from Shanghai, and they were playing old Buck Clayton arrangements all those years later. Anyway, was that it?
Well, you're going to tell us about Claude and recording in Kansas City.
Got to Kansas City.
How was Seville?
I was beaten up because I booked a coach flight, which means a very low price. We have to turn up for the 9 o'clock flight or whatever it was. If you couldn't get on the actual full, you get 10 o'clock, they bump you down until you got a seat. That's the routing. So I got there maybe late afternoon, beaten up, and got home, and Big Maybell, his wife, cooked a great meal, and I kept going to sleep while eating. And I said, "I'm beaten up, Claude, I want to go to bed now." He said, "No, you can't, man. You've got to come and hear the band." I said, "Why?" He said, "They don't believe you're going to record them. You've got to meet them, otherwise I can't guarantee they're going to be there to record tomorrow." So I arranged to record. And I said, "Claude," he said, "You better come back." So I got in the car. We get parts. "I'm ever so sorry, Jim," he said, "but you're the only excuse I've got to get out and see my girlfriend." So we drive to his house. I slept in the car for 2 or 3 hours. He came back, and we went up to it's French for butterflies at Mariposa or something like that. Anyway, what? Papillon.
Papillon, yeah.
With a club Papillon, and all the guys were there with the band. And that's where I first met James Chan. And we finished up going from there to the foundation. Now, the foundation was the AFM, the American Federation of Musicians, actually. It was one of the two centres in Kansas City. They had one for black musicians and one for white musicians. I'm sure the black musicians had a lot more fun. They couldn't even get a liquor license, but they used to sell Coca-Cola at some like $2 or $3, and guys bringing those bottle of whiskey, and they pay their money over the counter for their expensive soft drinks and mix it. They had all their little lockers, each with their bottle of whiskey kept in there.
And you may well have seen the Federation if you've seen a wonderful film called Last of the Blue Devils, which takes place there, where there's Basie there and Shannon and all the rest of them. Yeah.
McShann's playing piano, and Basie comes in with his jockeying cap on, and McShann says, "Where have you left your yacht, Basie?"
Yeah.
So just on that, so when the blues tours in the 70s, how did the guys, what did they make of their travels around North of England? How were they received, and what did they make of their station?
They got used to it. It amazed me how quickly they got used to doing it on stage. They didn't much get used to living on the road. That was difficult for them. They're amazed they could go to hotels without being shown separate doorways, separate entrances and things. The first two I did, I got in a local hotel in Birmingham. They all arrived overnight, and we had after breakfast, we had a business meeting, and I said, "Good morning, gentlemen." And about 2 or 3 weeks later, the night Slim said to me, he said, "All these guys like you." I said, "You call them gentlemen." It's easy as that. Yeah. On stage, they just did it, just like Michael Jones, some little honky tonk or juke joint in Mississippi. They got on stage, they did it. Off stage, they were real innocents, and to make sure they weren't getting robbed and fleeced. And everyone tried to give them drinks. I got Dr. Ross to cut down drinking, which is a feat in itself. But so many times on tour, mainly Holland and Germany, fans think they're being nice and give them a bottle of whiskey. I was recording Dr. Ross in Montreux at the Montreux Jazz Festival, and it was recorded for 2 or 3 weeks. While I was recording it, the second was on a 24-track machine with 2-inch tape going through it, 30 inches per second. So 20 pounds worth of tape went through in 8 minutes or something. And also importantly, because Dr. Ross had never recorded with a band, and I was recording with, I didn't do with Muddy. Muddy was to use his rhythm section. I got Brian Top Ferguson on piano, Lewis and David Myers on bass guitar and guitar, and Freddie Beeler on drums. And I was paying $100 each. I said to Muddy, "Can I use your band?" He said, "Yeah, you've got to pay him." I said, "What can I pay him?" He said, "Give him $100 each." I said, "That's all?" I said, "Yeah, 100 each." So paid $100 each, and they played behind Dr. Ross. But I was fighting like mad to keep off his whiskey. He's, went so 2 or 3 times during the day, and he's getting wilder-eyed and wilder-eyed. Oh, I landed him with 1 bottle of whiskey. I was marking the chartograph, and he wasn't going down very much. He was getting wilder and wilder and wilder. I get angry and say, "Doc, you need to go and get a shower, Doc." And I lay down in bed, and under the pillow was another bottle of whiskey. It was nearly totally depleted. So, and he got on stage, and he took maybe 10 minutes before he played us. He'd say, "Dr. Ross, it's harmonica boss. You can't lose with the stuff I use." Shake. And he shakes. He goes to the front, shaking one's hand. And I have this tape going through, and I said, "Stop the tape, rewind, back to the top again." But eventually got a good recording. I mean, that's recording with the Chicago Oasis. That's Muddy's band. It's great. Yeah, wonderful.
Okay, I think our time is about up. We can take one more if anybody has anything they'd like to put to us. Oh, well, thank you very much for attending.
I have one question, one short question.
Oh, right.
No, so, I think the book's pretty good. It's only good because of him. I wrote things, everything I wrote by hand, old-fashioned pen and ink, and if I couldn't think of something, I'd say Google, and or check this. So I didn't have to stop and think. And when I said, "Ron, I can't write anything, I've got nothing to write," he said, "No, let's try another chapter." And he's marshalled the whole thing brilliantly. Made it very easy for me. It took us 1 year and 2 months. He said it was hard. I thought it was dead easy.
No, you don't. I think one idea we abandoned right at the beginning, I think it was a good idea to abandon, was make the whole thing chronological. Because when you got somebody doing 3 or 4 different things at the same time, you try to work out which you did perfect, you just go mad. So it is, after the first chapter, it's very much thematic, and I think that's the best way to do it. But anyway, thank you very much for attending.
Yes, indeed.
Woo! Ain't that a big black bear?